Hey guys, so I figured I'd hop on here really quick and take a quick video of one of our tools that we are using to try to expand our pasture at our home property that we have. So this area is a fairly heavily wooded area. This is one of the thinner spots actually in the canopy. As you can tell, it gets kind of pretty thick, and if you look up, we definitely have some more thinning to do with the trees in this area. This has been, as you can kind of tell, I'll zoom in really quick on some of these trees. Our biggest in here is, other than like the old growth oak trees, is probably in that 40, 60 year range. And it's primarily hickory. And that is because this hillside at one time was actually planted in a radish mix. And so, as you would assume with practices way back when, it was tilled, and it's kind of hard to tell on screen here, but it's a fairly steep area, so it's definitely a degraded soil that we have here. And so what I'm trying to do to increase fertility here is obviously spread some manure on the area, but also some organic material to try to cover up the ground after having brush cutted it, so that way we can try to get some stuff growing in here. I have some more trees to cut out of here, but for the last at least 60 years it's kind of been left to just grow. And so primarily what we have in here in the spots that haven't been brush cut is just multiflora rows, and then some smaller, like a trash, I call them a trash tree, little bit of everything that's not grass of any kind. So yeah, there's a pretty good example of what we've been dealing with in here. It gets pretty thick down there, but did some brush cutting down in here, and I just unrolled our first bale here with the bale unroller. It's a pretty tight fit in some of the areas, but it's definitely easier to use than trying to roll the bale out by pushing it with the tractor in a tight area like this. And we're doing what we can to try to cover up the ground and try to build up a little bit of soil in here. It's fairly rocky, and I believe that's just because a lot of the topsoil has been washed and eroded away. It's kind of in between two different pastures that are flatter. You can tell they just kind of gave up on the hilly stuff, and then up over that hill there's another one, but it's kind of nestled in between a fairly large ravine over this direction and a smaller one here, and then the creek and the rest of the timbers comes that way from the south side of the property. Over here it runs all the way through the middle of the property and then out the back over there. And so we're trying to expand our pasture a little ways in here, but to do that we have to do quite a bit of thinning, and then we also have to put something down for the grass to grow. And one of the cheapest grass seeds I found is unrolling hay, and it comes with its own fertilizer that way. So I figured I'd just show kind of one of the tools we're using here. It's nothing new, obviously. This is a kind of a copycat of a Greg Judy bale unroller, and it works well. Eventually I would like to switch to using a 3-point hydraulic bale unroller, just because I can fit in some tighter areas with that. But it works good because we can hook it behind four-wheeler, side-by-side, truck, tractor, everything for now. But it's definitely a better fit in open areas. But I just figured I'd show this as one of the tools that we use. You don't have to start out by clearing everything and getting grass growing in an area necessarily. As long as you have other pasture during the summer, you can unroll your hay on your areas that you would like to grow grass on. And it's not necessarily a perfect solution because of frozen ground and having a little bit more runoff during the winter. But if you don't push an area too hard that you're unrolling hay on, you can collect a fair bit of the organic material that you're putting down in an area and give it a little bit of a jump start for the next year. Now, obviously, as we go along throughout the winter, while we're not in the middle of the growing season rather, I'm going to try to do some clearing so that way the grass seed that is put down in the area and the grass seed that's in the seed bank in the soil actually has something to come out to when the longer days come and the warmer weather to start growing. I'll try to kind of give you guys a little bit of a update on clearing it some more as we go, but I just figured I'd kind of show what we're working with here. And yeah, it's crazy how the screen flattens everything out, but I'm trying to hold it as steady as I can so you can see how quick it falls off. But yeah, it works well for us. Some people might, I figure I'd kind of give a little bit of a idea of how the bale unroller works. It does work great, and I'm sure for relatively flat ground, some people can get by with using a four-wheeler. Obviously, Greg does. I've seen it in his videos. That being said, that tractor weighs easily 3 times as much as the four-wheeler that he's using, and I'm sure it works great in his context. But for people trying to utilize some steeper ground, I wouldn't recommend using anything much smaller than that tractor. Not so much for the power to pull it, but just you kind of run into the limit of traction fairly quickly, especially during snow. And one of the primary uses for a bale unroller like that is for unrolling during the winter on your pasture, or in some cases underutilized ground like this. So they work well, but for some people kind of looking to use it on smaller jobs, I would just kind of caution people on hills to be mindful of the weight of their machine that they're using to try to stop it, because when you're using a full-size round bale, you've got quite a bit of weight behind you that is wanting to push you down the hill. So I just figured that was kind of a little bit of a useful bit of information for someone who's kind of trying to decide what they can get by with. Obviously, I'm using a pretty small tractor and I am able to get a lot done with it. That being said, I feel like I'm kind of pushing it outside of its limits a little bit with the stuff that I'm trying to do with it. And so I think it could be done with less, but you'd have to be very mindful of where you're going. So I figured that was a useful bit of information for someone. I was kind of hoping to be able to use my four-wheeler more often for the bale unroller, but after having used it with the tractor, I don't really feel comfortable in my area. Obviously that's a little different. As you can see, the hills are everywhere around here, but in my area I'm not comfortable using it on anything much smaller than the tractor. But yeah, I'll give kind of an update as I continue unrolling through this place, and I'll just kind of lay it down pretty heavy in this area where I can. Obviously it's kind of hard to weave in between some of the trees in here, but I'll give a little bit of an update on that, and another update as I clear some of the trees, and hopefully come summertime I can show you guys some grass rather than all the multiflora and other low ground cover that nothing really wants to eat except for our goats. But I just figured I'd hop on here, give a little bit of an update on what we're doing here, and show you guys some of the options for getting started on clearing out an area, but also some of the shortcomings and limitations of using the equipment that we are. So, end right here on one of my favorite calves of 2025, number 5. She's a sweetheart, and she's grown extremely well. Mama's kept excellent body condition for her breed. Obviously some people think she's pretty small, and she is for sure, but she has been a great mother for us. Number 1 over, might as well show you guys one more. Number 1 over here, she's growing extremely well also. But yep, anyway, I'll let you guys get going. I'm gonna head up and get ready to spend the evening with the family on this nice warm 50-degree Christmas Eve day, which has been a blessing after all the extremely cold heavy snow that we've gotten here in the last couple weeks. But I'll hop off here. You guys have a great Christmas, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.